their head.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, the Lord know the truth when they do it.
So this where we will come from, the perspective of the senseless violence in the street. Now we ain't gonna say no name, no blame in regards to what's going on, but we understand that violence is stemmed from a source, and that source is poverty. You know, what is poverty? Poverty is America's black eye. You know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about, you know, the disparities, the disparities in regards to the wages, in regards to going out and working and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about the 5 percentages of decent human life, we talking about food, clothing, shelter, health service, and education. Whenever there's a threat to 3 or more of those, then we get what today's society, surely through the media, call people preying on society. So that's where you see people say that most young black men are predators when they are nothing more than trying to figure out a way to do the things that the ordinary so-called established order kids do for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but me myself and how I speak of things or how I see things, it start in the household. When you in the household and a woman trying to raise a man, first of all, a woman can't raise a man, and the reason why,
True.
because she look at the man to be the check.
I mean,
The only reason why I pause for a minute is this show you how it started from the government. You know, we as individuals in the household, if you gonna be in the household and you gonna raise a man, you gotta let the daddy raise the man. They don't want the daddy to raise the man. That's what all started.
so when you say they don't want,
It's the
who
women.
are you saying they though? Is it the government or is it the women?
It's both, cause you can't separate one from the other. And the reason why you can't separate one from the other is because when the government say something, this a woman world. This ain't no man world.
Why you say that? The reason why, listen here,
Because they
I,
gave
I get you in part, but I have to disagree in part as well. And the reason why I have to disagree in part is that, yeah, it's a woman's world for those of us who don't understand and know ourselves. Just like what I'm saying, you know, before they started recording, is the fact that how we met. We met when I was coming of age by growing up in the penitentiary. I had 28 years, you had 25 years. You
correct.
see what I'm saying? So I had to grow up. And what makes us grow up is understanding and knowing having the elementary sense on behalf of what the law is and how is it pertinent to each and every last one of us.
Yeah.
Now going back to what you're saying about the man-child growing up in a household, in a matriarchal household headed by a woman, is pretty much designed by design, you know, to keep a man in a effeminate mental place. And we have a lot of femininity or feminine energy nowadays more times than any other time. So I'm saying through everything you see, history, the TV, the radio, it's been implanted in them to be just like their mother. So I'm saying, so you have a man that's pretty much dictated by the way he feels through emotionalism, opposed to being emotional. You know what I'm saying?
But I agree to disagree with what you said too, because it don't be the feminine way that they have from the woman. It be the way that they talk when they in the street. See, when you separate the man from the house and the woman try to raise
But
a
you
man.
just said it,
Hold
though.
up now. Listen to what I'm saying.
All right.
When you separate the man from the house and the woman have to raise the son.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? The woman don't raise the son. The streets raise
Exactly.
the son.
Exactly. That's
Can
what
we,
I'm going.
let's pause right there then. Let's do the, who is responsible for separating us from our wives though? That's you know when he say they take you away from your family, then you relinquishing or you giving the power over to an entity that doesn't have that power. So what is separating us from our homes? That's what we need to figure out. Who's taking us away from our homes?
Who taking us away from our home is we taking ourselves away from our home because we give up on what's in our home when you're supposed to value what's in your home.
Yeah, I can agree to a point, and the reason why I say that is the fact that when he's saying he's willing to quit, if I can get it right,
Yeah.
you using the pronoun. You saying they. Be more specific is what he's asking.
They.
Let me finish. So he's saying that is the established order, which is the government. Uncle Sam is stepping in and saying, I'm gonna raise your child. But yet at the same time he's not physically in there. So you're saying, what I'm saying, what I'm agreeing with you in, what you're saying is that they're going to the street to come of age, you know what I'm saying, and get pretty much
Their rites of passage
are
going through the streets,
Right.
in which
Yeah.
our rites of passage, prior to being introduced to a savage way of life. See, we was introduced to something that wasn't contrary to our nature. Now, when it comes to selling drugs and being a pimp and a thug,
But that's what the government leave us with. Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't understand how to have commerce. We wouldn't understand what business is. Because when I would say, in my personal opinion, that when civil rights came with no human rights, that made it together, and once we was actually better separate because we had our own economies together. You know?
I definitely understand that, and
Right.
I don't have any art with that at all,
Right.
and that's the truth. So, what I'm saying is, though,
You're saying
the images,
That we see
the,
on
the,
TV
the
and music.
images and the sound, right? So, prior to the civil rights movement, the image and the sound was totally different than the image and the sounds of the 70s, the 80s, the 90s,
Right.
and 2000s.
That's true.
Once they changed the image up,
Right.
how prior to that, we was working on, like you said
Right.
earlier,
Right.
we were working on,
I see where you're going with.
okay,
I see where you're going with. So you're saying, pardon me, I'm gonna cut your wisdom. So what you're saying is who's responsible. So you got to say that everything that you take in, surely through the media, TV, radio, they're pretty much predetermining how a person responds to certain things when that's pretty much a fictitious thing.
no, and how we get,
But like with the blaxploitation movies,
yeah,
Yeah,
and,
but-
you know,
but-
stuff
right,
like that.
because who told you that? Who
but-
told us that?
But hold up, I'm gonna try to pause for a minute. This would go back to, if it go back to, for example, when we growed up.
Right.
If you came around as a child and grown folks were talking and doing grown folk things, you had to get away.
Right.
Get on in that house.
So that's going back to
Let's
the
go.
groundings in the household.
Let's go back to the ground and in the household. Now, when the young kids come up as babies and see you drinking, see them smoking weed, loud music and partying, and you allow them to witness this, you see what I'm saying? It go all the way back to the ground.
The root.
The root. Because you got kids having kids.
No, wait,
Hold
pause
up.
on what
You
you
got
saying
kids
is
having,
examples.
you got kids having kids, but the grandma is
30,
30.
36 now. Our grandmas was 60, and they had now went through the process.
Yeah.
So, what we can take it to scripture.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's why it was important not to have kids out of wedlock. That's why it wasn't great to practice fucking for pleasure.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We fuck to reproduce.
Right.
See, we done got pleasure mixed up with life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where this come from.
This,
This is where we come from. Because if we're some pleasurable shit.
yeah.
Right.
Instead, we got to get in back to our God stuff. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Hold up. You don't know what this is. First of all, you don't have no label on.
I know it
so
don't.
don't label me.
I ain't talking about that. Ain't personal though.
This a root beer.
Yeah, but that ain't personal
You know what I'm
though.
talking
It
about?
ain't personal. That's why.
But
But what's understood don't have to be
See what,
explained.
Yeah,
see what,
but
what he said though, man, is this right here, is the fact that we think that when a desire is fulfilled, pleasure is the reward. So we have begun to live life shitted through desires.
Yeah.
The craving of desires opposed to need.
Yeah.
Okay, but pause then and let's do this.
hold on. Let's
Right.
you pause for a minute.
Okay.
But that's why ain't no labels on him because
I seen that
the
earlier.
only label gonna be on here. The only one I'm gonna support is me.
Right.
Bottom line,
Right.
I ain't gonna support nobody else but me. So whatever,
Jimmy Jams,
whatever in here is my business.
Yes, sir.
You
So,
see what I'm saying?
I had
Okay.
been gave up on that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
That's
I
what I
have
was
to.
saying. But that
Every
ain't
day.
necessary.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. though.
But
So we
you
taking
right
us
though.
off of
You right though, man. You know, but
No, that was a. I said I. The reason why I said what I said
Okay.
to show an example of you got to represent self. See, first of all, in order to sustain or achieve your goals, you got to believe in you first, and you got to put all in you, not the next man. Cause once you put it all in you, you'll be all right.
So is it safe to say this right here, that we have not been properly introduced to how to think opposed to what to think, as far as taking in information that's pertinent to us to be able to evolve as an individual and therefore evolve as a people?
that's true.
But what's your skill on that?
I mean,
Because the reason why I say that,
To
let me tell you the reason why I say that, is because, okay, one of the mission statements of the channel that we own, Sight Beyond the Veil, is to be able to pierce the veil, to be able to see things for what they really are, opposed to what they appear to be. See what I'm saying? And coming from being in a position where we are considered as being the dregs of society and 2-3 time losers being in the penitentiary and things of that nature, we don't have a voice and we don't have a platform to be able to articulate what we know. And being incarcerated, man, if you had an inkling of the ability to be able to have a quest for self, you will find that what you dare not look for that's lying dormant within you, which is that man or woman in the mirror. You see what I'm saying? But it all goes back to that aha moment, that moment where you have an illumination, where that light bulb is hovering above your head, and you have an ideal, and you bring that ideal into fruition. But you have to first, like you say, you have to believe in yourself. And how do you get a notion of self outside of being in the position that all three of us have been in, by being incarcerated and watching time pass you by? You know what I'm saying? And beginning to be on the touchline. You know, I think everybody that has been incarcerated, that has accumulated some information, has something to say.
yeah, I agree with that too. But at the same time, sometimes you can't look at your past. You gotta look at who you are today.
Right. But see, the past is a continuation of where you are right now.
Yeah,
I'm not ashamed of it.
But I mean,
I
I'm not
love
ashamed
it. I
of it. Yeah.
embrace my past so much.
cause that's a testimony.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got your own testimony to tell of what you've been through in life. You get what I'm saying? But at the same time, you gotta always realize this: if you don't believe in you, ain't nobody else gonna believe in you.
Right.
Bottom line, that's established.
It's
That's
established.
an affirmation. You have to
Yeah.
affirm that you can do what
Yeah.
you set out to do.
Yeah. In order for anything to manifest itself, you got to first believe that it can happen. If you don't believe that something can happen, it ain't nowhere it's gonna happen.
Right.
If I wanted to go rob a bank, I had to see myself robbing the bank before I went in the bank.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything that we experiencing right now on this planet is a manifestation of our thoughts.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? Even the poverty come from our thoughts, but who pushing these thoughts? Who's the corporate?
The news,
The media.
news,
The media. Who's
the
pushing
media.
who's pushing the thoughts?
Anything.
Who's controlling what we
News
thinking?
24,
It's not just
News 13.
it's not just the news and the movies, it's the people that allow that type of garbage to be put on the forefront.
And
on
so,
the silver spoon.
pause. Now,
Right.
what we're going to do is we get to the root of it, which is what you're saying is that whoever's presenting this garbage, this information, then we need to tune out.
Right.
Instead of going and see the Frank Lucas movie or the BMF documentary, all these things that's like not giving the full picture.
I wouldn't say all of that, but what I would say is that certain things, you don't eat certain things. Certain things are food for thought, and certain things aren't food for thought. You ain't gonna eat everything because it's not suitable to your taste.
Right.
You know, so you have to take what's given in reference to having a higher understanding. So you can look down upon some of the things that, you know, you used to do and used to be. Yet at the same time, who are you to say for the next person not to do it? You could tell them what you've been through because you did it, because you're the direct result of having been through that. See, when I look at things like the Frank Lucas movie and BMF and things of that nature, I understand what a person do when they give a biography. They bound to over-exaggerate one way or another. And when people make movies like that, they wouldn't allow those movies to be made unless they can market it properly and generate revenue off of it. They're not going to put plenty of movies out that can pretty much give a semblance of upliftment.
For example, hold on. For example, he grew up with an X on his back because his daddy and them were really bigger than BMF now. And transcript will show you that.
Right.
But people talk about BMF now, but they don't never talk about when niggas from Greenville went and took over New York.
Right.
116th Street in Harlem.
Right.
It's Greenville today.
Right.
Baltimore. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? They don't talk about their history there.
You see, anytime we get into the history of this country, it's always by way of the southeastern states of the United States. South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi.
Derived.
Yeah, everything came from down here. So you can't talk about what's going on in this country without originally talking about what goes on down here. And the place that we're from, South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, it's enriched for history, yet at the same time, it's not allowed to be formally articulated in a positive manner because the people who are what I call African griots, give groundings, see what I'm saying, are people that are coming like you and I. And people, we have been taught and systematically aligned to not listening to those people. Man, I can learn off anything. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't want the average person's story from the background that you and I and him got. You know what I'm saying? Because it don't seem like it's marketable, but it is. You know where I'm coming from?
It's the truth.
It's the truth. And,
Yeah.
man, the truth nowadays, man, is so watered down to the point where it has no kick at all.
What we're doing right now as a citizen of the earth and a citizen of Greenville County.
Yeah, Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, Greenville, South Carolina is telling the truth. It's showing, getting the world a different point of view and a concept
Right.
of what it's supposed to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we are the root. This is the bottom. This the bottom.
It
This
is.
was everything grows from.
Right.
Everybody migrated.
From the PD.
Okay.
From the PD in the Carolinas, man.
Jimmy Jam Root Bill.
I guess we're gonna wrap up, man. We're gonna wrap up, man. The sight beyond the veil. Peace.